mic wasn't on, and I paused just a little bit to get you to turn it on. I'm so proud of you.
Could we?
Golf clap.
Oh, yeah. Can you guys hear that? So I'm Gina.
I'm Amy.
I'm Dr. Robinson.
Welcome back to another episode. We are so excited to have you here yet again. We are getting so, I feel like we're getting so comfortable with doing this. It's like family getting together and having a chat. You guys are part of the family.
Well, they definitely will be if they start actually chatting with us.
That's very true. So we're going to do this at the beginning. As a change of pace, we're going to do a little bit of this. So we are still looking for you guys to reach out to us and let us know what you think of the show, anything that we missed or might have even misspoken on when it comes to some of the topics we've covered. And we've actually done quite a bit so far. We've done golf. We've done tennis. We've done hockey, basketball, baseball. Whoa. Almost all the major sports. Except for soccer.
We did a little bit of football.
Yeah, we teased at it a little bit. So I'm excited, though. This is going to be a good show. So today is all about, wait, you say it right, because I'm going to say NASCAR, and it's not just NASCAR.
No, we're going to do a show about auto sports.
Auto sports. And now, disclaimer, there's a lot more auto sports than what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the mainstream ones that most people have probably even either heard of or seen on TV in passing.
It's mainly going to be auto racing.
Yeah, with cars. Or car-like structures. We'll get to that in a second.
But, there are lots of other auto sports that we, can just kind of name. I mean, there's at least one that everybody knows that isn't technically racing that almost everybody knows because it's done at almost every fairground.
Yep.
And that would be the Demolition Derby.
Mm-hmm.
Although, the other one that I just thought of that's done at every fairground that you probably don't know, it's not car-based.
What is it?
Tractor pulls.
I've been to a tractor pull. We both have.
Oh,
and I did not even think about that.
So, and it depends on where you are, whether they're literally traditional tractors.
Yeah, they were.
Or if they are like tractor trailer, semi-truck.
They do
pulling
those?
stuff. So there are variations.
So I went to
that's also,
tractor pull.
That's another portion of the auto sports world, or the monster trucks and all of that. That's an auto sport.
That's crazy. So, okay, wait. Is Monsters Trucks demolition? Is that something all by itself? Because I know they smash cars technically, but they don't crash into each other.
Right. They're not a derby.
Right.
It's more like motocross in a giant truck.
Okay. And we won't even talk about motocross, because I thought about that the moment we started talking about non-car auto racing. Because another one you guys might know is like the X Games, where they have
they have motocross.
Yeah, with the actual motorbikes.
Right.
The illegal ones you see on the street everywhere. That's what those are for, not for city
and
use.
ATV racing.
Yeah.
And
dune buggy racing.
Right. So.
Did you know? Wait, pause. I was looking at something online. They have water skiing racing?
Yes.
I had no idea.
Motorboat,
it makes sense. But
jet ski, water ski, yes, all of that.
I had no idea. That's a show for another day. Anyway, back on topic.
When we get, and it may be soon, where we just have a show where we just talk about obscure sports that we saw on TV.
Gosh, that's a lot. Just flip through ESPN, 2,000 channels of it, and you'll find every obscure sport you never knew could be a sport.
Actually, is ESPN the Ocho, where they have cherry spitting.
Yeah.
What?
So, well, first off, the spelling bee is now on ESPN.
Yeah.
That's is it considered a sport, or is that just what they put it on?
ESPN covers it.
I mean, it's competitive, so I guess. I would feel stupid, so I can't watch it.
I have not watched it only because once it got to ESPN, I did not have cable, so I was not watching it. So I don't know how they cover it. But yes, it used to come on ABC. ABC bought ESPN, and now it's on ESPN 3000. So
I swear.
I mean, I don't know. I don't have cable, so I don't know how many stations there are. But before we really get too much further, just a quick note for anybody who's listening to this recording. Across the hallway from our studio, there is for lack of a better term, I'm going to call them a fashion house.
Yeah.
And they are prepping for apparently a show. So their music is cranked. If you wind up hearing some of the music behind us, that's not us, and we're sorry. Although I gotta say, it has not been music with words.
That's true. It's been, and if there is words, you can't hear it over the bass anyway. So,
so I'm not as worried about unintended words.
Right. we would address that if it came down to it and be like, we can't have that. But thank you. That was a good call out, just in case.
So now back to auto sports.
Right. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Which, by the way, again, Strange Things ESPN covers. They also do cover the annual hot dog eating contest.
I was thinking that in my head, but I was like, no.
And wife carrying. And, yeah, you've never seen the wife carrying contest?
No.
Yes.
Okay, anyways, if you guys are listening to the show, please inbox us. Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, our email. I want to know the most obscure sport you've seen on TV. Because I know wife carrying... Is it like an obstacle course?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to discuss this another day because this cannot be left unspoken over.
And haver tossing is wonderful.
Haver toss? What is haver?
It's part of the Scottish Games.
Okay, we should talk about the Scottish Games on a whole separate show because I have seen the Scottish Games.
So, anyways, auto racing.
He's about to ding
Eli
us.
dings us completely. He got us started on this whole thing
He
with
totally
his ESPN
did.
Ocho.
Cherry spitting. You should have known that was going to go off in a tangent of another place.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for the double thumbs up there, bud. Okay, yeah. So anyways, auto racing. There are lots of types of auto racing. So we've talked about some of the other auto sports. Mm-hmm. Things that people are, easily recognizable. Although I got to say, if you've never seen a tractor pull, literally they hook up a tractor to a sled full of bricks or cinder blocks. They are weighed out. The sleds are weighed out to specific weights, and it's literally to see how much weight your tractor can pull a particular distance.
Are these souped up tractors?
Sometimes. Oh. It depends, again, where you are.
Yeah.
Although, I must say, I've never seen the jet truck hooked up to one of these sleds. If you've ever been to, an air show?
Yes.
The jet truck. Oh, my God. But anyways.
Right.
Again, tangent. Auto racing.
Yes. Types of auto racing.
There are several types of auto racing.
Some of which I thought were one and the same and did not realize they were these independent entities. So.
And in looking at various websites, they have them broken down between 4 and 7 different types of racing.
Yeah.
So we're going to go with the basics first. Okay. 2 different types of racing. The basic 2 types are strip and track.
Okay. Makes total sense. Can I answer? Ooh, I know what the difference is. Are you going to get there?
Yeah, no, you can totally jump in whenever you want.
Ooh. A strip is just straight away. There's no turns. You just go from one end to the other as fast as you can. A track is actually got turns and twists. And it's not the traditional shape. We'll get to that. But it's not just the oval. A track can be anything that swerves or turns or has anything other than a straightaway.
Right. And I will say that some people will call some of the forms of track racing street racing because they literally close down streets, entire towns in Europe to do the race. But it's still technically a track because it's a planned out route. It's not street racing.
It's not Fast and Furious, okay,
down
people.
The middle of Euclid Avenue.
Right.
That they've been doing and taking out entire car dealerships near my house. Okay?
This is crazy.
So anyways, strip, yes, is that straightaway.
Yes.
The types of strip racing, any clues?
Drag racing.
Yes.
I'm going to cheat because I have the different types written down. I want to say it's not funny car racing.
Yes. So there are different types of cars that they do on the drag strips.
Yes. I know for sure the drag race, like the funny cars.
So there's funny cars and then there's dragsters. And those do look different. What people my age, again, 10 years older than the two of you.
Yes. I frequently forget that.
My very first video game system was the Atari 3600. Okay, I had it when I was like 5, so I didn't really know what it was other than Pong.
Yeah.
And there was a game that my brother and I had no idea because we couldn't even read the names on the game cartridges, right? Because we were like 4 and 5 years old. But we put it in, and the graphics, by the way, which we all know were horrible because they were like 4-bit graphics.
Yes.
Okay.
They were blocks.
They looked to me and my brother like pipes. Okay, they looked like tobacco pipes. My dad smoked a pipe, so to us it looked like there were pipes on the. And we didn't know because nobody's teaching us. We're just putting these games in and playing.
Right.
We didn't realize that the beep 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 was to start a race because we're 4 and 5, and so we're just sitting there hitting the buttons, listening to it go vroom, 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 and then goes poof, and a big puff of smoke comes out. Okay, and these 4-bit graphics. We thought
groundbreaking.
We thought the entire point of the game was to make your pipe smoke. Okay.
I mean, that's a little kid understanding of how the world works.
So the thing is, those were supposed to be traditional drag racers. They've got the itty bitty end in front and the giant tires on the back.
So when you looked at the graphics, was it like a long rectangle with 2 little tiny squares on either side?
So it was big rounded end and then a triangle down to a point, which is why it looked like a pipe.
Oh my gosh. I was giving it way too much credit. I was like, at least it looks like a car, right?
I will bring up a picture for you later.
Yeah.
But those are dragsters. Traditional dragsters have the great big wheels, all of the smoke pipes coming off of them, and the teeny tiny front.
Got
right?
it.
And a parachute that comes out the back when they get to the end of the track.
To slow them down.
Yes.
Okay.
You can drag. There are hot rod nights at the drag races.
Oh.
So if you've got your souped up hot rod, your traditional 1950s hot rod, you can bring it down to the drag race.
The Grace cars?
Yes. Like Grease Lightning, that was all about getting your car ready for the drag races.
Gotcha. Oh, I like real world examples. So.
Okay. In fact, that's one of the types of races at the drag night. It's also a streetcar race. So when they're doing that street racing, that drag racing down the middle of Euclid Avenue, they could go out to Thompson, they could go out to Norwalk and hit the strip
and actually do
it if they wanted to pay the money for it.
Well, there you go. There you go. That's why, because they actually have to pay money.
Well, but
but there's prizes, isn't there?
Yes, and not only that, but like, what are you doing out on the street? Are you doing it just for kicks, or are you doing it Fast and Furious style for whatever
for
prize,
papers?
Yeah. For, as they used to call them in the Grease era, pinks.
Oh yeah, your pink. So your title to your car.
Because the title to your car was a pink slip.
Yes.
So, those are the main types of cars. Funny cars look halfway normal, but have all these extra attachments on them.
Got it. So, okay, at Norwalk, do they do both kinds of races? Is it just
different
drag?
days and nights will do different types of drag races.
Got it. Okay.
So all of those are types of drags.
And just so you guys know, Norwalk is a racetrack that is in the Northeast Ohio. Is it Northeast Ohio? Mm-hmm. Northeast Ohio area.
I mean, it's kind of on the border of Northwest and Northeast Ohio. It's kind of like that middle point, which is great. It's Northern Ohio.
Northern Ohio.
all of Northern Ohio goes to Norwalk.
Yes. Okay.
And Thompson is actually a speedway, which is what racing tracks are called.
Got it. Okay.
So Norwalk is a strip, and Thompson is a speedway. Thompson has a track.
Okay.
And they do actual car races.
Got it.
Particular type of car we'll get into in a minute. But there's also in Painesville, there's a track, but it mainly does demolition derbies.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes.
Interesting.
So,
demolition derby on a track?
So it's not
the track I'm thinking of. It's just like one circle.
They call it a track. I believe it's the Painesville Raceway or something like that.
Okay.
It's basically they took an old football stadium
Ah.
and they reinforced the sides and put the cars in the middle of the football field.
Got it. Okay. So it's not a track in the way that you think of like racing cars in a circle. It's
the same way that they do the demolition derbies at the fair, where it's in the middle of the track area of the field. Yeah.
All right. I'm on the same page. One more question about the difference between a speedway and a raceway. Is a good way to think about a speedway, you need to slow down by the time you get to the end. Like something is, you race as fast as you can and then you come to a sudden slowdown. On a strip. Yes.
If you're on a strip, there is a finite end.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking. Thank you.
And you, depending on the type of race that it is, they will have... Like, if it's a dragster, the strip will be slightly longer. Okay. So the strip itself is a particular length. Did
they get louder?
Yes, they did. I'm very sorry, folks. The folks across the hall just got much, much louder.
Is their door still closed?
Yes. They turned up the bass. So it's coming through the floor now.
Okay, go ahead.
Anyways, so a strip is a finite length. Okay. When they're doing true dragsters with all the extra horsepower and running on nitro and all of that, they will use the full length of the strip.
Okay.
And then there's a certain amount after the stopping point
to give them
that they hit that parachute at a particular marker. It comes out and it gives them the braking power.
Got it.
Sorry, I hit the mic. It gives them the braking power.
I knew it. I was waiting.
And he probably wouldn't have done anything unless I said, sorry, I hit the mic.
Right. He wouldn't pay attention. Anyway.
But.
All right. So moving on.
So.
Thank you for answering that, because I figured there had to be some differentiation in there.
Right. So if it's some of the other types of things, they will have a, quote, shorter ending period. Okay. Because your, street car, first off, your street car is not going like 400, 500 miles per hour.
Right.
But your street car doesn't have the braking force of a dragster.
Right.
With the parachute and everything. So they have different stop points for different types of races.
Okay.
A motorway or a speedway is an ovular track usually, at least in the U.S.
Yes.
And that would be like your Indianapolis 500, your Daytonas, your Talladegas.
The ones that
those are speedways.
In the middle of a Sunday afternoon, you'll turn on like Fox, and that'll be what you see.
Yes.
Got it.
And those speedways, they only slow down when certain markers come out.
Right.
So we'll get into that.
Yes. Okay.
At some point in time. But now that we've talked about the strip racing, we go on to track.
Okay.
Track racing is mainly those speedway races in the U.S. In Europe, there's a lot more where, again, they shut down an entire town.
Right.
And you are going literally on town streets.
And that's where that debate between, is it street racing or is it an actual track? Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So to start off track racing, I'm just going to go with like kind of a bit of an age progression first. How do you get started in racing?
Go-karts.
Go-karts. Everybody's favorite thing. The thing that, my dad would never pay for us to do when we were at Cedar Point.
You pay enough to get in Cedar Point. It should be free.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there were 3 of us, and I think it was like $40 a person, and yeah.
I can't even imagine what it is now.
So most kids start off with go-karts, and there are progressively bigger and bigger carts if you get on the kart racing circuit. Okay. And there's actually associations and circuits, and this is how you break into racing. Right. You get bigger and bigger carts, and then eventually you get into cars with bigger and bigger motors.
Got it.
So
they get bigger and faster.
They get bigger and faster. You work your way up to a NASCAR or an Indy car or a Formula One car.
Got it.
Speaking of which, we will touch on what all those are.
Yes, because there are still significant differences between all those.
So, in the types of cars, once you get past the go-karts, which everybody kind of knows what a go-kart looks like.
Right. You've seen it.
They're flat little cars that have 4 wheels just outside the body frame, but they are not elongated like a Formula One or an Indy car would be. There are 2 main types of cars as far as the body types go.
Okay.
For racing. There are wheels on the outside, and there are wheels on the inside.
So inline, and then what are the outer ones called?
So you've got, again, the outside wheels. Okay. And then you've got wheels that are in line with the car's body.
Got it. Okay.
So if you think about an Indy car and where its wheels are, those are the outside wheels.
Okay. Makes sense.
Because the wheels are free floating on the outside of, not really free floating, but they're outside the frame of the body.
Right.
And stock cars, GT cars, those types of cars are all the inline cars, where their wheels are just like the wheel on your normal car.
Right.
It's kind of like the difference between a flared truck and a non-flared truck.
Okay, I gotcha. Wide versus narrow.
Right. So there are differences between the open wheel or out wheel cars as well. So the 2 main types there are Indy and Formula One.
Yes.
I did not realize until recently that Indy racing is something that you only see in the U.S.
Yeah, I was kind of, again, from our basic understanding of somebody who only has kind of general knowledge about it, I thought Indy and Formula One were the same exact thing.
I honestly thought they were. I thought F1 was what they called it in Europe. I thought it was like soccer.
Yeah, football versus soccer.
Right? I thought like F1 and Indy were pretty much the same thing.
Right.
Because up until I was in high school, you never had an F1 race on American soil. I mean, you would occasionally get one, but you didn't really have an F1 race on American soil. You only had Indy races.
Right.
The Cleveland Grand Prix was an Indy race.
Do they even still do that?
Nope.
I didn't think so.
Nope. They stopped that when I was in high school.
The
Roar by the Shore.
That's it. That's why I vaguely remember it. Okay.
I think they stopped that in 2007, actually.
So, no, it was before then, because it was before
Really?
I got my bachelor's degree.
Okay.
Because I would sit and listen at my dad's house in Cleveland. So it wasn't when I was in high school, but it was while I was getting my bachelor's degree. I would sit and I would listen on my dad's porch in Cleveland Heights because you could hear.
Crazy.
You could hear the sound from Burke Lake Airfront all the way up into Cleveland Heights.
That's a long way.
It is.
Wow.
It may have gone.
Actually, I have the last race was in 2007.
Was it?
Yes.
Because I was thinking it may have gone to 2006 because I remember the first year my dad was in Bracknell, which was the year that I graduated. We would sit there and listen to it too.
So it says here, after the 2008 open wheel unification, the 2008 race had to be canceled.
So basically, they actually just couldn't get the sponsors anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Which is so sad, because how long was that around for?
Since 1982. 1982 was the first actual race.
Get out of it. We weren't even you and I, Dr. Robinson, weren't even born yet. That is not a jab at you, I promise.
So, anyways.
Moving on. So what's the difference?
That's why it was called the Roar at the Shore, though. Is because, like, the sound of the cars was so loud.
Oh, yeah.
Powerful were those engines.
And my house is about 15 minutes away from the
you
track,
lived there your whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could just, I lived out in the boonies for most of my life, so when we moved into town, and I was like, what is that noise? And my dad's like, it's the Grand Prix. I was like, what?
Welcome to the city.
I was like, but we're so far away.
Power is power.
I mean, it was, and it really isn't as far away as you think it is.
True.
It's more uphill time than anything from Cleveland Heights down to Cleveland. But for people who don't live in the area, it does matter whether you're going uphill most of your travel time rather than flat.
Side note, as far as movies with motor cars, my favorite is Days of Thunder with Tom Cruise. And
we'll get into that. Wait.
Sorry.
We'll get to that in a minute.
We
did a whole research thing about sport
racing
movies
that we actually plan to watch, and yes, you will get to hear my whole Tom Cruise rant. Anyways,
Eli, your feelings about to be hurt. He loves Tom Cruise.
You can ding me the entire way through it.
That was your bill.
Yeah, get ready to hit that bell a lot when we get to that. But
Anyways, so Indy cars are what you see at the Indianapolis 500.
Okay.
They look a whole lot like Formula One, but they are slightly different.
Okay.
So the main difference is in the look of the very front of the car.
Does that make a difference?
It's how the airflow goes.
Ah, okay.
Yes. So again, it's so slightly different that if you don't know
what you're looking
at, you won't really notice the difference.
Hello.
But there are also things where, because Formula One is starting to come over here, there are more features of a Formula One car that are getting incorporated into Indy cars.
Okay.
That are considered safety features. So Indy cars still traditionally race an oval.
Okay.
Right? We're a very circular society here in the U.S.
So I noticed.
We like ovals and rounded squares.
Exactly. Look at every sport we play almost. There's some kind of...
We like our geometry.
We do. It's either a hard rectangle or some kind of
rounded circle, a diamond,
a triangle.
What you're about to say about Formula One in Europe, I love it.
So Formula One races, although I gotta say the Cleveland Grand Prix was on an 8. So Indy races were either ovals or 8s. They were figure 8s.
Oh.
I loved figure 8 racing. I loved watching the Cleveland Grand Prix.
I would be terrified to watch that.
They have to time out the crossover.
Exactly. I guess in my head when I think of the figure 8, you're thinking there has to be a hill they go over, but
there are in some in Europe, but because ours was raced on an airport.
True. There is no
there was no
bridge you can put in
bridge
there.
Or ramp. They literally had to.
Oh my god!
But it was just kind of like the way they do some of the ice skating track racing and stuff, and you have to watch the crossover zones and stuff.
Crazy. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I loved it. I thought it was more exciting that way.
Yeah.
But those are our tracks. We usually do the track. Yes, ding me, ding me, ding me. I talk with my hands too much.
You do. You got to talk low.
But we do traditionally figure 8s.
Okay.
Or ovals here in the U.S.
Got it.
Formula One racing, they have these tracks that they're the weirdest shapes. And they have alternative track lines.
What's an alternative track
line? There are some NASCAR races that do this now.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Because NASCAR got tired of being called, we only turn left.
Oh, that's right.
We only make left-hand turns.
They're trying to get all fancy now.
So, but basically every time you go to a particular pre-race with Formula One, you may have a different track to follow each year that you go there because they have, again, alternative tracks.
Right.
So it's all paved out.
Right.
And they'll just close off a section.
And you have to do the other piece.
And you have to and they'll open up a different section.
That's funky.
So, from year to year, the track could look slightly different.
And I bet you it's those very slight changes that completely change how you race.
And they don't just do like a figure 8 or a circle or whatever.
Right.
They do like these weird, like you've got 2 left-hand turns and then a right-hand turn and then a sharp left-hand turn.
Ooh.
And then, yeah, they'll have like 90-degree turns.
What?
Like they have like even sharper than that, or they'll call them like 120-degree turns because they're like depending on if it's to the left or to the right.
Right. The skill though, like people
Right.
can't even make right-hand turns in regular cars. I've hit a number of curves in my day. I'm just saying.
I mean, the tracks are fairly wide and whatever, but
True, but even
So, and usually a lot of times with F1, unless they are doing a city street race, they have more area along each side of the track.
Okay.
The seating doesn't generally come straight up to, again, unless you're doing like a Le Mans or Monte Carlo.
Right. The big foreign ones that we know of.
Which, by the way, Monte Carlo was the race that Tony Stark was doing in Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
So that gives you an idea of like how like close up things are.
Yeah,
right?
I would be. I mean, I know it's a thrill, but I would be terrified to be that close. Because when the stuff hits the fan, where are you going?
Yes, but when you feel the roar of the engine,
I can feel it from up there. I can feel it from up there. Sit me at the top, the farthest top bleacher. I can feel it just fine.
But that's the thing, is that like they've done so many things to improve safety.
Yeah.
And improve everything. I mean, all of these auto racing sports have that. When we do go and look at some of the older movies that you and I were talking about, we'll see the difference in what they wore and how they wore.
Right.
And all
and I
of these
will
things.
say, fast fact, a lot of our modern innovations in cars, or even just the beginning safety features in cars that we drive every day, started with auto racing. Amy blew my mind when she told me that. I was like, it makes so much sense, those seat belts,
roll cages.
Like, cars have those built in, just not in the way that we're used to thinking of a roll cage, but that's why your car doesn't completely crumple into a million pieces when you roll over in an accident.
Well, especially nowadays when cars are made out of mainly plastic and aluminum.
Yeah.
The roll cages are reinforced steel. So they put you, the passengers, into an area that the metal is reinforced so that you don't have everything crumpled into you, even when everything else might crumple.
Right.
They have started taking some of the innovations from some of the racers where there's a zone of materials behind the engine block to keep it from, to help it lose momentum should it come towards you instead of going away from you. So your engine should always be in front of you if you're driving a normal car.
Right.
I mean, unless you're like driving an old Pinto with the rear engine. But
Or
anyways,
didn't old Volkswagen Beetles have the engine in the butt too? Yeah.
so unless you've got a car with a rear engine, or like the but your engine should be in front of you, and if something happens to change its momentum and force it towards you, they have materials that they now can put in to help deaden that.
Got it.
It helps it lose its momentum. It's not going to keep it, but it's the reason why there are so many more times when people don't end up with engines on their laps nowadays.
Yeah. And it's weird. You don't think about those small things that are inside of your vehicle that keep you safe until you get an accident. You're like, geez, how did they walk away from that?
And if you watch F1 all the time, like, and whenever it's on the news, they compared like the F1 racers to like the shark bite people, where they're like, yeah, I'm gonna get back out there on my board. I can't wait to get back in the car again. And you're like, dude, you just went through like 3 towers on the side of the racetrack.
You just flipped like 12 times. How?
And skidded for 15 miles on the hood of your car, and you walked away, and you want to get back in there?
What's wrong with you?
But
where's your mom? I'm telling.
So those are like kind of the main differences in the F1 and Indy.
Okay.
Even though we have digressed quite a bit, just to get back to semi-track.
Right.
stock car is the one that most people know here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that because of
Fast and Furious.
NASCAR.
Oh, sorry.
Fast and Furious, again, is street racing.
That's true. Sorry.
NASCAR. NASCAR actually stands for the National Association of Stock Car Auto Racers.
I'll let you handle that because that wasn't happening. Not on this microphone, it wasn't. National Association of Stock... Wait.
A National Association of Stock Car Auto Racers.
Auto Racers.
Say that 5 times.
Absolutely not.
So that's what NASCAR stands for.
Got it.
We have promised a friend of the show that we would not do a full NASCAR episode without him here.
Yes. Because he has a passion. When I say a passion, people, I mean... He knows engine types. He can listen to an engine and know exactly what it is. You remember that movie Taxi with Queen Latifah? There was a part in there where she was talking about how when she was a kid, her dad would take her and they would just listen to the races. It was NASCAR, and they would listen, and she learned what the engine sounded like. And she could tell the difference between one car and one driver based on the sound of the engine. This is how deep our friends' love for this thing goes. So that's why we can't do too much without him.
So I can, though, go into some of the basics of NASCAR
Yes.
and some of its basic history.
Mm-hmm.
The did you knows
Ooh,
of NASCAR.
When we get to the one about... I want to do it.
I'm not even sure what you're pantomiming, so go for it.
Okay, so NASCAR...
So I will say that last week when we started talking about this,
Yeah.
I started telling Gina stuff, and she went, "Oh my God, my head just exploded." So
I gotta get it out. So back in the gangsta days in the 20s, when they were running drugs and alcohol,
just bootlegging alcohol.
bootlegging alcohol, that is the origin of NASCAR, because their cars were souped up to be able to outrun the police, and very often, more often than not, they were able to, because the police cars could not. I just saw your face and you didn't know that. They would be able to outrun the cops. So that is the history of NASCAR.
So
the very
yes.
origins.
The very first NASCAR drivers were all bootleggers.
Boom.
The very first NASCAR owners were all bootleggers. They were all moonshiners.
Which is nuts to think. Like, it started off so highly illegal, and now it's just, like, mainstream.
Well, so they were all moonshiners.
Mm-hmm.
During the Prohibition. They, again, not only modified their cars to hide and hold alcohol,
Right.
but they would tune them up and soup up the engines enough and make them lighter.
Yeah.
So for every pound of alcohol they added, they were removing other things from their car.
I figured, because it's...
in order to kind of, get the weight to be right.
Right.
But they were doing all of this to be able to go up and down the hills of West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina,
Crazy.
in the mountain areas,
Mm-hmm.
up and down those hills faster than anybody else. A, because the fastest runners could make the most money.
Right.
B, faster than the police.
Mm-hmm. And you know
Faster
what?
than the feds, really. It
Right.
wasn't the local police dudes. Most of the local police dudes, they were getting paid off in moonshine.
That's
But-
true. Or just, straight up kickbacks.
But it was your feds,
Mm-hmm.
your gumshoes, your, your Elliot Nesses
Yes.
of the world
Yes.
that were trying to outrun these rum runners, the moonshiners. And
it's interesting that you mentioned the hills, because we were talking about that with here in Northeast Ohio, because Northeast Ohio was very hilly. But, like, to think about, like, how steep some of those hills were, to keep that momentum and keep that speed while you're carrying alcohol
well, so
and climbing up a hill, anybody who's ever ridden a bike, even I know this, is not easy. And it's hard work. Like, the
I mean, they
engine
weren't
strain.
going necessarily like straight up the side of the mountain. They were still, sticking mainly to the roads, although they were dirt roads at that point.
Right.
They weren't roads.
Right. But even still,
But most of the time they were able to outrun not just because of what they've done to their car, but because they knew the roads better.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, they're traveling them every single day and night.
At night, by the moonlight.
Mm-hmm.
So that was actually one of the things. They would take out their headlights in order to lighten the car because they were only running the moonshine by the light of the moon.
Wow. Take out your headlights. That's ballsy.
Well, considering that headlights weren't officially put on cars until the 1920s anyways. I mean, if you watch Downton Abbey, they had to go out and light the headlights.
What?
If they drove at night.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
The headlights weren't, like, part of the car. You had to attach headlights.
Wow.
Yeah.
Modern technology versus how it used to be.
Yeah. Mirrors.
Yeah.
Rear view mirrors. Like, there are no such things as mirrors in auto racing, okay?
Yeah.
There are some
that.
on some of like the Formula One cars. They now have some side mirrors, just because your wheels stick out so far, you don't want to get too close to somebody.
That makes sense.
But you have no mirrors really on your cars,
Interesting.
and that's really to keep your focus in front of you. But in truth, rear view mirrors were a luxury item on cars until the 1940s.
The 40s?
Yep.
Wow. These are those subtle things that you
They
don't
came back
pay
from
attention
Europe.
to.
The troops came back from Europe, and they were like, all these European luxury cars have
Rear view mirrors.
rear view mirrors. We want mirrors on our cars.
Interesting. So it was a European.
Seatbelts did not come into use until the 70s.
Well, yeah, because my mom used to tell me about like my grandfather's old Oldsmobile with the bench seat in the back, and there was no seatbelts. And in my head, I'm like, so how did you keep from like rolling over each other?
You didn't.
The whole arm thing.
The parent seatbelt was, it.
You have older parents when they do that because by force of habit, they're used to having their parents put their arm across their chest.
Dude,
like,
I still do that with the stuff in my front
me
seat.
too.
When my purse starts flying.
When I have drinks and I listen, it gets so serious. I'm gonna say this and then we get back to the point. I will seatbelt in stuff, and I will still parent arm it.
You didn't even have the bell ready until you said, I'm going to say this and then get back to the thing. Okay, so you got to stay, if you're going to be ringing the bell, you can't wait for us to tell you when to ring the bell.
Now you're just ringing it because you're petty.
Yeah, I am.
I know. Anyway,
so that's stock car. Stock car, NASCAR, they are cars that are on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the chassis are exactly what you find on a, quote, normal-bodied car.
Right.
Okay? I think there's still only 4 manufacturers, maybe even less than that, in NASCAR at this point. I know it's Toyota, Chevy, Ford.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's another manufacturer in at this point.
Who was the other one? Do you remember?
Is it Honda?
I would think it would be.
And Honda never was.
Really? Okay.
Really?
Right. It was originally only the big 3 American autos.
Yeah.
And in
And
the
then
I think in the 80s, 90s, they added Toyota.
Okay.
Okay. You should look that up,
So-
producer. Who was the other one that used to produce?
Was it Dodge?
Chevy, Ford, and Toyota now.
So it was Ford, Chevy. It may have been Dodge.
Okay.
But then with all the mergers, I think it's just now Ford and Chevy.
I think it gets kind of lost in translation because of all the brands and stuff that
Right.
have become one.
Right. So I think at this point, I think it's only Toyota, at least on the main Cup Series circuit. It's just Toyota, Ford, and Chevy.
Okay.
And those are the manufacturers. And now each manufacturer, if you're a team owner,
Yeah.
you choose which manufacturer you're going to run.
Okay.
And then there's a setup that your car has to fit in with that manufacturer's body. So you
Got
can't
it.
add extra stuff to the body of the car.
However it comes.
However it comes is how it comes. And NASCAR has strict rules
That makes
about
sense.
how much you can add or take away
Right.
from the stock body of the car.
Okay, now the name makes sense. It's like when you get the stock model of a car without all the bells and whistles added on with the packages of like heated seats and leather this and.
So stock basically means right off the shelves.
It is
Got
Dodge. It is Dodge.
Okay.
Chrysler Dodge.
Chrysler Dodge. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. It just all is making so much sense why things are named. This is probably one of the most logical sports that we've done. I.e. tennis
really
last week.
I mean, it honestly is. First off, I think that car races are just like, we don't have time to go all fancy.
Yeah, true. True.
I mean, F1 is like the fanciest of the names, and that's, what the heck does Formula One mean?
Now,
but,
you said five. You said the top five. Like
ding yourself.
Yeah, I got to ding myself.
If you're dinging me for hitting the mic, you got to ding yourself.
I wasn't going to let him get away with that.
So, actually, it's had only three that NASCAR actually started off with. It was Chrysler, Ford, and General Motors.
Okay.
Ah.
So I was like, I knew it was like only American-made models.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can't remember if it was the top four.
Yeah,
it was like
Toyota
the big four,
came in.
But then Toyota came
later.
in, and then, because, back when it was the Salem Cup, Winston-Salem cigarettes.
Of course it was. Of course it was. Just like baseball used to have.
It was the Salem Cup, and then it was the Winston Cup. And
my God. That saves smoking cigarettes around these high-powered, fueled-up cars.
The tobacco companies, because, again, think about where they were based and where NASCAR is based. NASCAR was founded in North Carolina.
True.
They sponsored the championships.
Okay.
So it was the Winston Cup. When I was growing up, it was the Winston Cup. When Dale Earnhardt the first, Dale Earnhardt Sr., and Richard Petty were racing.
Wow.
It was the Winston Cup.
Interesting. Okay.
They were the main sponsor. Back in those days, it was all American cars.
Got it.
As, it has changed over the years because all the mergers, first of all, again, the big auto manufacturers that were big at that point in time, some of them have gone mainly to the trucks. So, like in the truck circuit of NASCAR.
Pause. There's a truck circuit of NASCAR?
Yep.
I didn't know anything about this.
There's a camper circuit.
That's all, folks. Like, I'm so done with this right now. I give up on people.
So actually, I think the camper circuit is actually just the name because, like, the RV company pays for the circuit. I don't think they actually raise campers.
The fact that they have anything that is above a car or truck, okay?
So there are trucks. There are they have bike races. So there are NASCAR bike races.
Wow.
Because they do a motocross.
It's actually called the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series.
So do they is these like legit campers, like RVs?
No. So it's the trucks Camper World pays for. But that's why I was like, there's an RV series.
I was about to just get up from here.
It used to be that it was Camper World used to be called something else. It was RV something.
Okay, I got it.
And
okay.
so, yeah.
I was about to say, this is getting way past ridiculous.
But anyways, yes, they do have like a motorcycle division as well.
Interesting. That I did not know either.
But basically, they've diversified over the years. So yes, they've got a truck series that race just stock trucks.
Interesting. Okay. Same manufacturers, I wonder? Dr. Robinson, that was a question for you.
For the most part, I believe so. But again, I know that like GMC only does trucks.
Yeah.
GMC doesn't manufacture cars.
True.
Chevy manufactures cars.
Okay. You know what is funny? Now that you say that, I noticed
Ford,
it.
Chevy, and then GMC trucks. So Ford and GMC race on the truck circuit. I don't know if Toyota does.
Yes, they do. It's Chevrolet, Ford, and Toyota, and the inaugural season started back in 1995.
Huh. Okay. And there are Chevy trucks, so that makes sense. There's GMC and Chevy trucks.
And also, the tire manufacturer for the truck series is actually Goodyear had the monopoly on the actual.
Goodyear actually has a monopoly on all NASCAR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They manufacture all the racing slicks. And that is something that when we get into NASCAR specifics, we will talk about, because there are like 4 different types of racing slicks. They have different colored tags on them. There are different things that they do to mark out how long your tire has been out on the track, if you can reuse the tire or not. So, like, if a race goes into like a 4-hour rain delay, can you reuse tires from earlier in the race if the tires, you know what I'm saying? 'Cause, like, sometimes those, or like there have been times where a hazard has been out on the track so long that they're like, can we come in and trade out, and we don't have enough, if we come in now and trade out tires, we won't have enough rubber left for the end of the race. Is there, and so they have all these
There's
rules.
a lot of rules.
There are a ton of rules. There are so many rules.
And we talked about how strict NASCAR is in comparison to like Formula One and Indy, where they have a little bit more wiggle room.
I mean, they have more wiggle room as far as
like how they can modify their cars.
There's more range on an F1. Indy is more like NASCAR, where there's not as much modification they can do.
Okay.
On an F1, they have, because F1s aren't done by manufacturers, and we're not going to be able to finish all this. We're going to have to go into a
part
second
2.
episode.
There'll be a part 2.
Oh, what's interesting? I'm looking at the research right now. What's interesting is the stars in NASCAR used to race in the truck racing, like Kurt Busch, Carl Edwards, and Kyle Busch.
So that goes into that whole, like, there are steps up into. And in order to become a driver on the main circuit, you wind up having to go through all of the other circuits.
Which is interesting. So there's like a hierarchical.
So you have to go through the trucks, and then you have to go into the lower. They have 2 circuits lower than the Cup Series.
Right.
So there's the lowest one I don't know the name of because it's not even televised. And then there's the Xfinity Series.
I've heard of that.
And the Xfinity is what they race on Saturdays.
Right.
Got it.
So when you're talking about IndyCar racing, some IndyCar racers went to NASCAR. So I can mention one IndyCar racer. Her name was Danica Patrick.
Oh, okay.
She came from IndyCar racing and got into NASCAR.
Yeah, she went from Indy to NASCAR. Her Indy career was over. She couldn't get another sponsor, and she jumped over to NASCAR.
She's still racing?
I think she's on the Xfinity Series.
I don't think she's racing anymore.
I mean, it's been a couple of years since
Yeah.
I've actually been able to watch. Again, I don't get those channels on my TV anymore.
I.e., I ain't paying for it. For me.
I mean, the thing is that, it comes on Fox.
Oh, yeah, I don't get Fox no more either. We live in completely different parts of the city. But anyway.
So anyways.
Her last race was in 2017.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So she jumped around. There are other racers that do this throughout Europe where they go back and forth between GT and Indy.
Right.
We haven't even gotten to GT cars yet, which are the Grand Touring cars. That's just basically, there's sports car racing and there's car racing, and they'll use the same track, and they are doing the Grand Tours. Okay, the Grand Touring races. Gran Turismo, the video game?
Yep.
That is GT racing.
And can I just say, side note, those soundtracks from those games are boss.
So, with the Grand Touring races,
I forgot he had a little NASCAR figure on his little desk by his computer.
Well, and we're going to get into like the history of NASCAR and African Americans and everything else too at some point in time. So, anyways, with the GT races, most of the GT races are 24 hours or longer.
That blew my mind. I was like, first of all, I complain sometimes about just having to drive to the grocery store and back. But to have to literally be behind the wheel for 24 hours.
You have teams, and you switch out with your teams.
12 and 12.
Every, you come up with the
Oh, so there's not a
ratios.
set amount of time that each of you have to be behind the wheel. Whatever works best for the flow of the drive.
Right. Well, usually when you hit a pit stop,
You switch.
you switch.
Okay. And those pit stops are set up along the path, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like in traditional stock car racing, NASCAR, where like your team has a set area and that's where you are and that's where you pull off the track.
Well, and that's kind of is. I mean, I don't watch as many GT races because they're just not shown as much here in the U.S. Again,
is that more of a foreign thing?
It is a European thing.
Okay.
They are very entertaining if you do watch them because, you've got a Volkswagen Bug up against a Porsche.
First of all, now you made me think about Herbie.
Which, by the way, is, I think, everybody's first introduction into auto racing.
Absolutely. The Love Bug movies.
Love Bug does Le Mans.
Trip it out.
Anyways.
There were so many of those movies, too.
Yes. So, anyways, those tour racings, you switch out with a partner driver, or sometimes it's 3 or 4 people.
Yeah.
So you might get out, another partner jumps in, somebody moves over to the driver's side, and then you go and get your lunch and you take a nap.
Wow.
So, yes, we know. We saw your 5 minutes.
He just wanted to hit the bell again. That's what it comes down to.
Damn bell.
Where did we start? What do we do?
So, we're going to have to actually break this into a separate show.
Yeah,
because there's more stuff on this list that we haven't even touched on.
Man, it's involved.
It is, and the thing is that, like, we wrote down all these things, and we're like, oh, that should take an hour. And then, like, as we're talking about them,
tangents,
like, more questions, tangents, other things come up. Robinson adds things.
Right, exactly.
So,
But you know what? I have to say, that just goes to show, like, the diversity of this sport. And I have to say, probably of all the sports we've talked about, this is one of the most diverse sports that I think we've covered, from the foreign circuit of how it works to the innovations to the modern day that we use every day, don't even think about. This is really the history of it. It's just nuts. I'm beginning to get a passion for this, Amy.
So stay tuned for episode 2.
Unintentional episode 2, because this was supposed to be a one-parter.
Of auto sports.
Yes.
Because we are definitely going to continue and get more into all of this. Mm-hmm. So thank you guys very much for joining us on this episode.
Feedback. Tell us what you knew, what you didn't know, because I'm interested.
What you want to know.
Right. Your favorite racing movie. There's a ton of them out there.
Yes. So we haven't even gotten into this yet, but we will talk about it in part 2 because there's a list of movies that we are going to be trying to watch, which we got to find time for.
I know. But being adults is hard. If you guys make this show blow up, we can just sit and watch movies. But on that note, for myself, for Amy, and for Dr. Robinson, we thank you all so much for tuning in, and we can't wait to share part 2 with you, and we'll see you next week. Bye, humans.